Okay, good morning, everybody. We're at the top of the hour. Thank you, Stephanie, for being right on top of that. So today we're going to be calling about the perfect listing system. And I want you to write on the side of the page here, it's customer experience versus customer service. And so we all have customer service, but how do we make that customer experience go to the next level? How do we make that client a raving, lunatic, crazy fan of ours where we get repeat and referral business? So my job as the assistant trainer and to help you and to know what I'm going to be sharing with them is that I'm not the magic pill. You have to have some accountability in place for these calls with your assistant. So I like to go over some of the material that they're going to get is similar to what you have, and sometimes there's nothing alike. So therefore, you've got to take this material and give it to them also and go through this. So let's do this. So the objectives today on page 1 are we're going to create the perfect listing file. We're going to create the perfect pre-list system. We're going to analyze your pre-list package. We're going to create a weekly communication with your assistant. We're going to review the courtship, the honeymoon checklist. And I'm going to go through Chris Heller's pre-list package, which has changed. The assistants are getting another new one, which again is changing again. So the pre-list package is a constant and never-ending improvement. So turn to page 3. So let's get ready. Do you agree that listings are the foundation of your business? So I am privileged because of the production. We've pinned it and closed over 100 deals so far this year, and I think we're at a little over 50 million. So we've got a pretty big business, and so I'm privileged to be in Gary's private mastermind. And one of the things that he's always said for the top 100 agents is that, number one, if you don't reach your goals, you didn't take enough listings. If you didn't take enough listings, you don't have a big enough database where all lead generation should come from. So with that said, listings are the foundation of the business. Does your assistant pre-qualify your appointments prior to going out? And so you need to pre-qualify your appointment, and it's easy for the assistant to go back through and ask a few questions also to make sure all decision makers are going to be there. You know, will you have 2 keys available? You'll get the script. It's coming up, so hang on to that. And then do your systems create repeat business? Because it's so hard to find business, and you get these great clients, and yet we're not treating them and giving them the customer experience. And so when you turn them over to your assistant, is she or he trained to know how valuable and how important this repeat and referral business is? You know, do your clients feel like they're the only client? You don't have any other clients, that there's always time for them, that your assistant recognizes who they are. The worst thing is when a person calls in and says, hi, it's Jim Smith, I need to talk to Sarah, and Sarah says, Jim, what is this call regarding? Your assistants, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4 assistants, whatever in your office, need to recognize, oh, Jim, you must be calling about your property on Cherry Street that we're helping you sell. Great. You know, you've got to know who these people are and make them feel important. Can you rate your communication systems with your sellers as excellent on a 1 to 10? Do you feel your communication is excellent? I mean, I talked to an agent earlier today, and he was mortified to find out that one of his listings hadn't been contacted in 3 weeks. And, of course, they want to cancel the listing because they think nothing's done. Now, I'm sure this has never happened to you guys on this call, but it can happen. Are your listings checklists perfect? Now, remember, there's no reason that these checklists can't be perfect. I've had assistants turn in checklists to me that they're 1 page long, and I go, you can't possibly have a 1-page checklist. Every single item has to be on there. And when you have a failure in your checklist, that failure goes on there. You know, if it's checking on a water well and you go, well, we only sell a house with a water well, every, 4 years, put it on there because you're going to get caught again. Do you communicate weekly with your assistant regarding listings? You must have that weekly, if not daily, communication. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, and I'll stop for questions in just a second. Page 4. Pre-qualifying script. So this script is basically for you, and so you're going to have a tab, and it's going to say pre-qualifying in your listing checklist, or in your policy and procedures manual. You'll have a tab, TAB, with qualifying scripts. And so, I'm not going to go through this because you guys know what to do on pre-qualifying, but the success of the appointment is all about, pre-qualifying 100% before you go out there. so that I can do a great job for you before I come out. May I ask you a few questions? It'll take a couple of minutes. So once the appointment is set, you as a great agent should pre-qualify them. And so when you look at what the assistant does, they're going to confirm the appointment and do some basic pre-qualifying again. It just cements that you're going to go take that listing. May I ask why you're moving, where are you moving to? All of these questions, the timing questions are critical. And then I'm going to share with you on page 5 what really helps in my market. So when I say, tell me what price you won't go below, what value do you feel your property's at on page 5? And a lot of them will say, I don't know, that's why you're coming out. And I go, great, of course. So how much would you like to net on your property? Oh, we need to have at least $50,000. And I go, great. And then while I'm talking to you, I hope you don't mind, Jim, I just noticed on Zillow, tell me, how do you feel about this? Zillow says your property's worth $450,000. Now, we all know that Zillow's either crazy, or they're sometimes on, or they're sometimes so far off, or out of the ballpark, or they're crazy, but it gives you an example. So that seller's going to go, $450,000, are you kidding? No, we have to have over $500,000 for that. So at least I've got a ballpark. So if you make a note there, that's a great way to pin down someone who's not going to give you the price, but say, gosh, while I'm talking to you, I just pulled up Zillow real quick. And I know that Zillow can be off. Tell me what you think about this price. $450,000, I'd love to have that. Wow, if we could get that, we'd be so excited. And then I throw down that, and I say, great. As we all know, Zillow can be completely off. So we'll definitely take a look at that when we come out. So how did you hear about us? Critical. And you got to remember, we're recording sources of business. So one of the things that I teach the assistants to do is make sure that they absolutely know and record the sources of business. You cannot run an effective real estate business without recording your sources of business. So, true story, I asked an agent to send me a list of their sources of business, and I got back their buyer agents' names, and I go, that's not source of business. And she says back to me, that's source of business, they got the business. And I go, but where did it come from? So source of business is like sign calls, internet, past clients, center of influence. And make a note here, too. Referrals, you just can't say it's a referral. Is it a past client referral? Is it a center of influence referral? Is it an agent referral? Is it a vendor affiliate referral? Is it a team referral, meaning from an assistant or a buyer agent? There's 5 categories of referrals. So don't let your assistant just go referral in those categories. Really get very specific. The more specific you are about your business, the more successful you'll be. All right, and so you can look at all that. So one of the last things that I say, and remember, I do the drill every day like you guys do too. I'll say, so before I come out, tell me, what's the number one quality you're looking for in a real estate agent? What do you need to have? Well, we need to have communication. I go, great, I have a great communication system. Well, we want to have our house sold for top dollar. Great. I can show you where we as agents in our marketplace absolutely get the most money get the best return for that. A lot of agents average about 94% asking price. We now average about 97.5. So we're about 3.5% higher than most agents. So be sure you have some great, I can show you that. You'll be excited to hear what we can do for you on that. But I want to know what they're looking for so I can spoon feed it when I come back. All right, so then on page 6 is just, this is building a policy and procedures manual. If you hire another listing specialist, you absolutely have to teach them. And so these are the steps, building rapport, the presentation, reviewing the CMA, ask for the signature. So these are just guidelines for you for your policy and procedures manual. So you should go to page 7. At the end of pre-qualifying it, I'll open it up for any questions. Now, does your assistant need to be licensed to ask these questions? Well, here's my thought on that. Every one of my assistants in this office is licensed because we don't want the liability. As you guys know, Chris Heller is the CEO of Keller Williams. So, one, we don't want any liability. If he wasn't the CEO of Keller Williams, we still don't want any liabilities. When you do a lot of business, people like to throw stones, and there's a lot of things that assistants can't do who are not licensed. They can't talk about price, terms, condition of a contract. So in order to just protect yourself. So in most of these questions, they're survey questions, so an unlicensed assistant can do that. So, this is blank with blank team as part of blank's customer service. I want to thank you for the appointment, and blank looks forward to meeting with you. In order for blank to do a great job regarding the sale of your home, I have a couple of questions. Do you have a couple of minutes? Great. Do you plan on interviewing any other agents for the job of selling your home? Gosh, how many times have you been caught where you went out there thinking you were the only deal and they were going to interview other people? Tell me again where you're moving. Why are you moving there? How soon do you need to be there? Have your assistant do these questions also. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's some pretty great ones there. Will all decision makers be there? Number 15 is one you absolutely have to make sure that that's being handled, all right? And if not, then she's going to reschedule the call. Go to page number 18. Also, may I ask, will you have 2 keys available? Well, I don't know if we're going to list our house. Well, no problem. I only asked that question in case you didn't want to lose any valuable marketing time. And so you are setting up the stage to take the listings. What do you feel like when you get a file that's in perfect condition, ready to go, you're walking out the door, and at the top of it, it says 2 keys available? Does that mean you can go take that listing? Absolutely. Does that mean they're ready to sign? You bet. Now, if they're moving, I'm going to be going over with your assistant that before you even take the listing or you don't get the listing, that you're sending out a referral on them. So as part of our customer service, we belong to a network of the top 1% of the agents in the country. We can contact an agent for you. I already have an agent, the seller says. Great. This is at no cost or obligation. You might as well have 2 great agents working for you. Each agent knows of different properties, and I know you would not want to miss out on any possibilities. Now, ... I know the culture of Keller Williams. If they've got a Keller Williams agent, we're probably not going to send out another Keller Williams one. Probably not. However, if it's a RE/MAX or Coldwell Banker, we're definitely getting involved, and we're definitely sending out a referral. So with that said, I want to stop here, take a minute, hit *6 to unmute yourself. Who has a question for me? Happy to help. This is your call, so participate if something didn't make sense to you or you have a question. *6 to unmute.
This is Claudia Hernandez with Keller Williams Realty in the Antelope Valley.
Great, Claudia. How can I help you? Thank you for speaking up.
I have a question. We have a lot of sign calls, leads to follow up, and I always doubt who should be doing those follow-up calls. Can my assistant help me with those calls? Or I need to be calling the clients back?
Well, okay, so your assistant can help with the sign calls if you've trained her or him and you've role-played with them constantly, because those are money calls. And sometimes an assistant's not trained to listen to if they have a house to sell or how long they've been looking for a property, tell me about the perfect home. They're not as aware of the market. Can they make that initial call back and you give them some questions to ask? Yes. So if you go back to call number 1, 2, and 3 on communication, there was the potential buyer script, and then my question to be would say to you, how well have you trained your assistant to answer those calls? They can help out, but you are absolutely the best one to do that. And as your team grows, you want to hire an ISA that would handle all incoming calls and record them. Did that help?
That helped. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Next question, please. Hit *6 to unmute.
Hello there. Can you hear me?
I can, and you are?
I am Craig Wilburn, good old Gainesville, Florida. How are you doing?
Okay, good, Craig, Mr. Florida. How are you? What can I do to help you?
Okay, just want to get some clarification. So on the pre-qualifying script that has all the items, step 1, step 2, and then the pre-qualification questions for assistance. Now, is this 2 separate things, or is this just one detailed of step 1? I'm trying to understand when do you do one versus the other?
Okay, so the first pre-qualifying that I gave you is for agents, and because I'm trying to set up your office systems for you, so you'd have a tab in your book that says pre-qualifying scripts. The second thing is your second line of defense, because most agents don't pre-qualify as hard and strong as they should, and you should role play with your assistant the second script, which is pre-qualifying script that an assistant can use. It's the script for the assistant. So you have 2. One is for agents and one is for assistants.
Gotcha.
And
So would the assistant, like as far as a practical application, would the assistant maybe call the potential seller in advance, go through these questions, and then when the appointment was set, would the agent then go and review the same questions or just eliminate the ones that we already have answers to from the original script with the assistant?
yeah, well, I don't know how you do it, but when I get a seller on the line and I set an appointment, I pre-qualify them immediately. So in the beginning of my script there, it says, "Great, I look forward to seeing you at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. Now, before I come out, can you take 2 more minutes so I can do an excellent job for you? I'd like to go through a few questions with you." So I qualify immediately the second I set the appointment. Now, if I have an ISA team that is setting appointments for me, I'm calling and pre-qualifying to confirm that appointment, and then my assistant, the day of the appointment. So my appointments are 1:30, 3:30, and 5:30. So she will call that morning and get a hold of them, and then she will pre-qualify them again. So because between the time I talk to them and if are you planning on interviewing any other agents for the job of selling your home? They go, yeah, as a matter of fact, we said we weren't, but we just found someone who said a friend of ours said we needed to talk to someone else. So does that make sense now?
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, good. Anyone else with a quick question, please? We have time.
Hi, Monica. Rob Ruiz, Burlingame, California.
Yes, sir, Rob.
I have 2 questions for you. One is on the Zillow side. Isn't it just as easy to look at comps, really quickly just to get a kind of a more accurate sense?
Well, yeah, but do you want to say, according to my research and my comps, your house is worth this? Wouldn't you rather say third party, Zillow? See the difference?
Okay.
See the difference?
Yeah, I do see the difference, but one of them is kind of way out of whack, right, which is the Zillow one?
Yeah, the Zillows can be out of whack, but I just say, because I say, I usually spend 3 to 4 hours of research. I tell them that, whether it takes me 2 minutes or not. I spend 3 to 4 hours of research looking at your property, and, interesting, I just pulled up Zillow real quick, and I know that Zillow can be off. They figured your value is $450, and sometimes their information isn't accurate. How do you feel about that? I want that third-party endorsement. I don't want to pull up a CMA. And definitely you don't want to argue with them over the phone saying, well, you want $500, well, everything that I'm pulling up says $450. You can't do that, of course, right?
So it's really just trying to get a sense of where they're at.
Yeah, all I'm trying to do is to find out if they're crazy or they're realistic or if I have a fighting chance to get a right price on that property. I got to see what kind of battle gear I have to bring.
Okay, got it. And then the other question was on page 7, the first question, do you plan to interview other agents for the job of selling your home? I get why that's important, but what do you do with a yes or no there?
Okay, when it says yes and my assistant's to train, great. May I ask, have you scheduled that appointment yet? Yes, it's for blank blank. And then so she lets me know. Now, if I know it's a heavy-duty competitor of mine and they got in before me, then I got to call them and do this script, which is great because I didn't tell you this script, but I can, pull it out of my head right now. So I would call them up and I'd say, hi, John, it's Monica Reynolds at Chris Heller's office. I know we have an appointment at 4 o'clock today, and I know you'll be meeting with one of my great competitors, Adam. And so what I'd like to ask you to do, please know that I spent 3 to 4 hours of market research. It's very important that I would like to share with you what we do differently. There's some great agents. Adam's a great agent. I'd like to share what we do. Sometimes when agents know that I'm coming after them, they will try to force you to sign a contract. And I know that you and your family deserve to hear every agent. So may I ask you to please keep our appointment? What do you like? Do you like that script?
Yeah, okay, got it. Thank you.
Got it. Okay, good. So that's how I do that. So if it's somebody that's a knucklehead, and they're going after me, then I know I can get it. And if there's a knucklehead ahead of me, sometimes I'm still going to call because sometimes, they just feel like, oh, that guy's so nice. We just really thought he was so excited about the house. Well, he's never sold a house before. No kidding, he's excited, And so I always have to make that call. But I need to know so I don't get aced out. Okay, it does happen. Okay, good. One more question from anybody, please. Okay,
Monica?
Somebody there needs to hit star 6 back again. Okay, page 9. All right, let's go to the pre-list packet. Now, I don't care, what your pre-list package basically looks like. I think it's important to have one. And how do you get one there? Okay, I'm not supposed to say this, but I understand RESPA. Our title rep will deliver our pre-list packages for us. And it's so important to have a team that will help you out. You either mail it, you deliver it, you have somebody on your staff deliver it, but get that pre-list package out there immediately. And the reason is that it shows your level of commitment, it shows your level of professionalism, you know, and will they look at it? If you got a deep personality you're presenting to, they'll go, oh, they're coming, okay, they sent it to me. You're at least making an impression that you're doing something different than most agents. Okay, so I'm a firm believer in keeping it small, and, you know, I'm going to give your assistants another package next week where one of my assistants got a little zealous and overzealous on this and created more, and so now we've got a third package that we're working on. And so here's the thought process. Your pre-list package has to be looked at least once a quarter. Update it, change it, move stuff around, get pictures of your staff. I think that's so important. You're not seeing that on this pre-list package, but I'm a firm believer of having like a group picture in your team so that people are familiar with here's our team, here's the next person that's going to be talking to type of thing. So you want an appointment letter, references, testimonial, phrases, if sheet, if you're being the buyer, what features would most excite me. I'll go through some of these things. And then, you know, on that pre-list package, we put different things in based on where we are in our business right now. We have a velocity chart that shows, you know, how many listings are in the market versus last year, how many sold, et cetera. And we pull those out when we're in front of an analytical. So I have a lot of things in the package I don't go over unless I get into the personality style. So the personality style is always on our listing package, which you'll see coming up. It's so important that next week's call you talk to your assistant about the listing checklist, the file checklist, and the listing appointment checklist. So I have a listing appointment checklist that I go on the appointment with, and part of that has the personality style. So when I say to someone, describe your home for me, I can easily tell what kind of personality style. A driver will say basic 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It'll be important, you know, too, for me to go through what their motivation is with the assistant, et cetera, and I'm going to go through that in just a few minutes. But you've got to have some consistency where you are having the information go to your assistant in a timely, proper manner before they process the listing. And I'm going to tell your assistants that they need to have a 5 to 10 minute meeting about each listing before it's processed, okay? So going back to the pre-list letter, here's a letter. Thank you for the opportunity to present my qualifications and marketing plan to sell your home. I think of my clients as individuals, specific needs. We use a white pocket folder, glossy. It has Heller the Home Seller on the front. We use that for expireds, FSBOs, pre-list packages. We use it for contracts. We use the same file folder for everything. So if you look at page 11, I look forward to meeting you on blank to help you with the process. Please have 2 keys available. That's a key thing. That's a key thing. So page 12, and I'll go through this with your assistants, assembling the listing file folder. I'm not going to go through it with you guys because this is their job. You should have a classification file folder. They're metal clipped at the top, 2-hole punched. Everything should have a certain order. You as great agent should not be in the file screwing them up, making a mess. It needs to stay in a very orderly fashion, section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I don't care how you rearrange it. My assistants have all changed it. They've got the system that they want. This is what I recommend, and I let the assistants put it in an order that they feel comfortable with. Page 14, sample client testimonials. You should change that word to reviews. Testimonials are archaic now, so that should be reviews. We couldn't have done it without you. People will not read long letters. I have a huge, huge problem, and no one in my office would ever do this, with copies of a copy of a copy of a photocopy. It has to be nice, neat, and crisp. So nobody's going to read a letter, and we don't do scanned copies for anything in this office. So thank you for your professionalism, more than a real estate agent. So if you don't get the testimonials where you can write something like this and copy it, call a buyer, call a seller and say, hey, do you mind if we said something like this and used your name? So keep it simple, all right? But where I want to spend a few minutes of time is on page 15, the 3-week honeymoon of communication, okay? So here's where I need you to really think through this process with me. When somebody lists their home, you walk out the door, I don't care how great you are. And let me give you a hint. About 50% of the time, the husband and wife look at each other and go, I hope we did the right deal. I think we did the right deal. Did we do the right deal? So this is the honeymoon. And if you guys step it up on the honeymoon for the first 3 weeks, get a price reduction, you get your home sold before 30 days, this is the way to do it. And the way to do it is to over-communicate. So when you go back to the office, you need to go through the appointment checklist with your assistant, which they're getting next week, and you're going to walk through what their motivation is, their personality style, are they excited to sell, unhappy to sell, do they have a dog, what's the dog's name, how important is the dog, what are the kids' name, how important are the kids, is there anything special about the kids. So just listen to this. This is the first week. Assisted introduction call within 1 hour of receiving listing using the first call checklist. Yes, they're getting it in the next call. What you have to hear from me is that you can't just throw the file folder down and walk away. That is a huge no-no. You can't send that assistant into cold turkey calling someone. The worst thing that's happened sometimes I hear about is when some assistant calls and said, hi, it's Jane with so-and-so's office. Congratulations, your home's up for sale. We're excited to help you. And the wife says, really? Well, I'm going through a divorce. I'm not too happy about that. Or another situation that I know about is that an assistant will call and they'll go, hi, it's blank, blank. We're excited to get your home sold. You have a few minutes? I'd like to go through a few things. And they go, great. Now, I know I spoke to you. May I ask you how can I reach your husband? And I'd like to go through a few things with him also, part of our customer service. And he says, I don't know, call his girlfriend. So you don't want to get in those situations. Of course, I'm, sharing with you true stories. All right. So number 2, thank you for listing a letter with all signatures of the team. Get one of those put together. Yes, I'm going to give you a letter. Buyer agents or office to preview within 48 hours. Agent to call and say thank you for referral within first 5 days. Letter with copy of MLS printout sent by mail or to seller. Assistant to call seller and provide code for their property for Arch Telecom or whoever you're using if you use an IVR. Sign up within 24 hours. An assistant, number 8, circle this. Assistant to call every day the first 5 days of receiving the listing. Absolutely, every 5 days. Now, are they going to get them every 5 days? No. What does the assistant say for every 5 days? I've got the script because the assistants go crazy on me and they go, I don't know what to say. Yes, you do. Use common sense, but I give them the script. Week 2. So looking at week 1, they're going to get a ton, agent to call and say thank you. Between you and your assistant calling every day, do they feel like they hired the right agent? Gosh, I would hope so. Of course they do. Week 2, assistant to call, review MLS printout, disclosure, email link sent, agent to call, review showings. If that's what you do, my listing manager does that. Assistant to send out email link to 50 agents, email sent to entire database. Assistant to call top 10 agents in the area, let them know about the properties. Now, some of these things you should do. If you don't have the bandwidth to do them, then you don't do them. But they need that contact that week 2. Week 3, a new CMA is sent, and we set them up for a price reduction. Make a note of number 2 in week 3. A plan of action is sent to them with check marks saying done, done, and done. So where is the plan of action? It's in the pre-list package. And your plan of action can look different than mine, but I gave you a sample of it. And when you write done, 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 done on them, or your assistant does, and sends that to them, then they have a copy that the marketing plan has worked. So here's your little bonus. Write this script down. So at a listing presentation, I always say after the listing's signed, thank you, Mr. Seller, for signing the listing. I'm excited to get your home sold. The good news is our marketing plan works 100%. We sell all of our listings. The marketing plan works. The only thing we're going to test in the next 2 to 3 weeks is the price. If you've had no showings or lots of showings and no offers, we know we have a price situation. And we're going to keep you absolutely informed. I'm here to protect your equity ferociously. So that's a great script, and you need to set them up for that price reduction in the first 2 to 3 weeks. The longer you have a home on the market, they are losing money, plus what an aggravation for you. Sell it, get it done. Okay, star 6 real quick if you have a question about the honeymoon checklist. Okay, somebody
Monica?
comment. Does anybody have a thought about the 5 calls in 5 days?
Monica, this is Anastelle Mays from Danville, California. Can you repeat that script?
Sure,
After
I just
the
have
signing?
to pull it out of my head. It won't sound exactly the same, okay, but it'll be close,
Okay.
all right? So, and remember, all these calls are recorded, so you can have your assistant go back and type it for you. So
Thank
I'll
you.
say it a little slower. Okay, thank you, Mr. Seller, for signing the listing agreement. We're excited to get your home sold. Now, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to get lots of showings or very few showings. The good news is that we know that our marketing plan works. We sell 100% of our listings with our marketing plan. The only thing we're testing is the price. The price is critical to get your home sold in this market. So in the next 2 to 3 weeks, if we don't have a lot of showings or we've had a lot of showings and no offers, we have to look at the price. We will be sending you a new CMA in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and, so I've changed the script around, but that's basically what I say. Same thing
Thank
over
you.
again. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Got
you.
it. Any comments from anyone about the 5 calls in 5 days on a listing? Do you think that would be helpful?
I'm Monica
Yes,
Devon Thiel, Keller Williams.
Yes, sir.
The 5 days script, do we have that?
Yes, I said it's coming in next week's call for your assistant because they all freak out on me. So they'll get it next week. But here's the bottom line. If I say to assistant, use common sense. Thank you. The first call is going to be thank you for, listing your property, and they go through the first call checklist, which I give them. The second call is, I just wanted to verify with you. I talked to the sign company. The sign will be up on Wednesday, blank, blank. There's always tons to say, and they're always to use your name. Hi, this is Stephanie with Chris Heller's office. Chris asked that I call you and let you know this. This is important that they always keep your name in the loop. But those calls have to be made. And when I say to assistants, sometimes they say, well, I don't have time to call them every day. Well, the reality is you're going to get 3 out of the 5 days probably. 2, you're going to leave a message. But the bottom line is they know you're on top of the business. It cuts down on the crazy incoming calls. What's going to happen next? If you guys are getting calls into your office after you take a listing and that seller doesn't know what's going to happen next, big problem. So in those scripts, the assistant is going to say after the first call, here's what's going to happen next. I'm going to order the sign. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. I'm looking forward to getting back the transfer disclosures from you, and I will call you tomorrow with some updates. So we always say in our calls, here's what's going to happen next. Great talking to you this week. Here's what's going to happen next. I'm going to call you on Tuesday. So we always make sure we end a call with here's what's going to happen next. Now, okay, does that answer your question? Okay, anyone else have a question?
Sorry, yes, I did.
Yes, go ahead.
Monica Susie from Charleston, South Carolina. Hello. The number 3, I guess I don't understand it. 3-week honeymoon communication. Number 3 says buyer agent or office to preview within 48 hours. What's that mean? I'm sorry.
Well, I have buyer agents on my team.
Yeah.
And they got to get their happy self out there to see the property. I hate it when they handle a buyer call or a sign call about the property and they haven't seen it. They're winging it. What do you think? And when we have a seller, when we go out there and I promote my team and the seller, expects, obviously, a buyer agent to come out and preview the property.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
right,
that's
and I know that when a buyer agent sees the property, they speak more confidently instead of winging it and looking it up online trying to figure out, oh, yeah, it's got a great backyard, instead of saying, it's an amazing backyard. You should see the trees.
Gotcha.
Totally different response to these potential buyers. So we get them out there.
That's great. Okay, thank you.
You bet. Question?
Yes,
Monica Devon Thiel, Keller Williams again.
Sure.
In Medford. Really quickly, I'm at the verge of breaking between 50 to 70 deals this year, and I guess my question is, it seems like a lot for one assistant, and I'm thinking about splitting it to maybe two. Where do you draw, what task, how do you divide the tasks up? Do you have any suggestions?
Well, first of all, when you do 50 deals a year, one assistant can do this. And your listings are your foundation, so don't let any assistant say she can't do this. These are simple, easy calls if she time blocks her time or he does. When you go to 75 deals, you need a half a person. So for every 50 deals, you should have a full-time assistant. We'll do 200 deals in this office, and I have 5 full-time assistants. And the reason is that we have over-the-top customer service, and we have other things, too, that we want to make sure between property management and stuff like that we've added on. But Gary Keller says the same thing. I wrote the 2 books on it. I've been training over 100,000 assistants and agents. You know, you absolutely have to know that one assistant can easily, up to 50 contracts, do this honeymoon checklist. And if you don't build your foundation correctly with the listings, then you're not going to have repeat and referral business. You're going to be just a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. All right?
Yep, thank you.
You got it. Okay, real quick, let me go through page 16 and I'll open it up for more questions. Okay, so every single Friday, which I have mentioned to your assistants on call 1, 2, and 3, these reports, you need a listing update report. So here's the sample of one: seller, expiration, number showing for the week, address, phone number, days on the market, original price, price reduction. If you look at the next form on page 17, this is exactly what I have. So this is a listing update form. And so it's got the phone number, the people, it's got the expiration date, the original price, and days on market. This is from a while back. We don't have those kind of days on market for those short sales anymore. So with that said, what I want you guys to hear is you need to have a report, a listing update report. You should have a closing report every Friday. It's a list of all of your listings. And I get this every Friday with the days on the market. A great assistant, which I will tell them, should be checking off the ones that are going to expire in 3 weeks or less and put a red circle around it. They should be yellowing ones that have a problem that they need to discuss with you. You should have a weekly meeting about your listings. So, you know, again, listings are the foundation of your business, foundation. Go to page 18. Here's some videos that Chris has done, which are great. Now, as everyone knows, I'm in San Diego. This is Chris Eller's team. He's the CEO. Of course, he lives in Austin. But the branding, we're 7th level, is always Chris. And so Chris does these videos because the branding is Chris. So what will your assistant learn this month? So on page 18, write this down. They're going to learn about pre-qualifying, okay? Number 2, they're going to learn about the pre-list package, okay? Number 3, they're going to learn how to set up a listing file properly. Okay. Number 4, they're going to be shown the listing checklist and the listing appointment checklist, which is critical to the success of the file in the beginning. And then number 5 is that we're going to talk about the importance of database having completes, name, address, phone numbers, and emails. And if you agents out there don't get it straight on that listing appointment and get that information, that's the first thing that they do is get that database straightened out and checking sources of business. Number 7, I'm going to go through the honeymoon checklist. And then number 8, I'm going to talk about the weekly communication and why that's so important. In our office, we are calling on Tuesdays is updates and Fridays updates. We have a lot of listings. We have a few listings. It doesn't matter. They get a Tuesday and Friday update. We over-communicate. That's customer experience versus customer service of calling them every 2 weeks. Keep them in the loop. And I'm going to give the scripts to the assistants, and yes, should you be calling them at least every 2 weeks? And in these faster-paced markets, you want to call them at least once a week because they're going to sell in 2 weeks or less. You want to stay in touch, too, because this is a relationship. Now, I also tell the assistants, you make a note, that an email is not a contact under any circumstance. An email is not a contact. I've already reviewed with them the importance of a communication log. Hopefully you put some of these things in place already. Anytime an incoming call comes in or an outgoing call happens, we have to absolutely make a note. You've got to have a communication log for legal purposes and just for the sanity of the file to know what's going on in it. You can't have an assistant or yourself remember and juggle all these different things. So that's what the assistant's going to learn. Now, as we're getting into this, the pace is going to start picking up, and the pages are going to be 40 to 50 pages sometimes that they're going to get from me. So hopefully that policy and procedures manual is really working. Next month we're going to be talking about, as agents, the closing. The closing is the dessert of the file for the client and for you, hopefully, and how important that is. So with that said, please pay attention to the next 2 weeks. Make sure that you're getting your listing systems into place. They can't rebuild this all at once, but getting those file folders in place, getting your qualifying done, getting your pre-list package underway. There's a lot of things that they need to carve time off, and sometimes you yourself have to do that too. So with that said, I've got a bunch of time here that I'm trying to do because this is an important part. And I wanted to open it up for questions because I know this is a big call, and I want to make sure you get your questions answered. So the listings are the foundation. If you don't reach your goal, you didn't take enough listings. If you didn't take enough listings, you don't have the right database going, and that's why one of the things I talked to the assistant about. Now, you guys can see the pre-list package. I didn't go through all of that, but you guys get a good idea what that's about. And obviously the plan of action is the things that we check off and write done, done, done on. Okay? All right. Who's got a quick question for me, please?
Monica, Travis Reeser here in Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Whenever the listing assistant is calling the sellers and mentioning the agent, I'm just about to hire my first listing agent. Are they mentioning me as the CEO and the listing agent each time? That you're
getting ready to hire your first listing agent?
Correct.
Okay, and so
I've been doing all the listings to this point.
Okay, and
team.
So in our office, Aaron Simons takes the listings and I take the listings, okay? And so, people will call our office for Chris Heller and we say, I'm sorry, Chris is not available. Aaron, his listing specialist, is. Aaron will be talking to you. We just pass the call. I mean, in 5 years that I've run Chris's office, we've never had a problem with what I call passing the baton.
Yeah.
When they call and they say, and if we're not here, Aaron and I aren't here, they say, we've got someone who wants to list a property, past client of Chris's. We just call and say, sorry, Chris wasn't available. I'd love to help you.
So when that listing assistant is just following up, in general while it's on the market, do they say, hey, Chris and Aaron wanted me to give you a call, or do they just say Aaron?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Depends. So if the call came from a past client, it's always Chris and Aaron wanted us to know. If it's a client, that's why the sources of business are so important. If it's a client that we got from, say, our ISA doing circle prospecting, there was no relationship with Chris, and they say, Aaron asked that I call. Monica asked that I call. So depending on who took the listing, that's where the relationship is coming from. Now, I'm going to give you a tip that you need to make time to do this. You may not hear me the first time, but you need to think about this.
Okay.
When you hire a listing specialist, the last thing you want to do with your branding is have that person build a relationship and you be invisible, right?
Right.
So you need to call and say, thank you very much for working with my listing specialist, James. I know he did a great job and you're under contract. I'm so-and-so. I want to introduce myself, and if you have any questions, here's my private direct line. And then you send them an email or have your assistant send an email from your email saying, thank you very much for working with my team member. I'm always available. Now, Chris Heller, believe it or not, he sends out a thank you note to every single one of our sellers. And so it's not a complicated process, but you can find a printer that makes it look like you just wrote it, uses the same pen. And so what we do is we send him the envelopes, and his assistant writes them out, but then on the card he'll write out, Dear Jane and Jim. She puts it in an envelope, sends it back to San Diego. Sounds complicated, but it looks like it came from Chris Heller. The branding is Chris Heller.
Yeah.
The branding has to be you. The letter has to come from you. The thank you letters have to come from you. The thank you for listing have to come from you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
One other quick question. On a lot of our listings, I'll get paperwork signed on appointment, of course, and they won't be ready to come on the market, say, for 30 days before we can send our photographer out. So what I usually have them do is make an initial call, introduce themselves. They may make a call in the middle, how a repair is coming along, but that 5 days begins once they're ready to go, like photographer scheduled and activating the listing, correct?
Right. That is correct. However, let me give you something. When you list a property and they're not going to put it on the market for 30 days, it's important that you or your assistant call them once a week. I don't care who it is. Somebody call them once a week. Just say, hey, we're touching base. Is there anything we can do to help as part of our customer service? Okay, so you got to call them once a week. And then once it goes on the market that first week, they get the calls every day. And the assistants give me such pushback on this, you can't believe, and I'm going to be really honest with you. Those people who push back, email me, call me and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe the difference it made for us to be so proactive that I don't have all these crazy incoming calls saying, what's going to happen? I haven't heard. Can you tell me about this? So when you're proactive, it cuts down on the calls. It's ahead of the problems. Okay?
Perfect. Thanks.
Good. What else? Who else has got a question, please? We've got time. That's what I tried to do on these calls with you great agents.
Monica, this is Steve in the New Orleans area. When you said that you thank you for, we're excited to list your home, and that your marketing plan works 100% of the time, I caught that. How do you sell 100% of your listings?
If they're listed, we do. If you take it off the market or expired, we didn't.
Okay.
See the difference?
Yep.
Am I sliding around on it? Sure. You must be an analytical to ask that question, right?
You're right.
Okay, Mr. High C. See, the high C's will ask that question, and that's why, that I can tell. And I understand what you're saying, but if it's listed, we're going to sell it. If it goes off the market or you cancel it, then we didn't sell it. But if you're listed, we're going to, get the price down at some point and get it sold. You're motivated, we'll sell it. We sell 100% of our listings.
I get it. I'm really a high S.
You are. You're a nice guy. Sorry I beat on you then. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. You can take it.
All right.
Versatility. Good. Who's got the next question, please? Okay. Question. Okay, so let me recap a couple of things. So I'm not the magic pill. I'm a good start. But the listing system has to be perfected. The honeymoon checklist, do not balk or discount that. It is one of the best things you're going to hear out of this class. If you call that client 5 days, the first 5 days, here's what's going to happen next, checking. Bill asked that I call as part of our customer service to let you know the sign will be up on Wednesday. Call on Thursday. Just wanted to check, did the sign get up? Great. We wanted to make sure everything is going correctly. Here's what's going to happen next. If you do these things on that honeymoon checklist, you will change how people will feel about listing their property with you. They feel important. They feel special. They know they're just not a number in a file, that you're professional, you're on top of it. When you do things correctly, they'll go out and tell 3 or 4 people. If you do things incorrectly, they will go out and tell 15 to 20 people how bad you are. And, oh, my gosh, I don't know if we listed with the right person. We got a call today. Past client of Chris's developed a different relationship with somebody he plays tennis with, felt like he needed to list their house with them. And we get a call today and say, hey, we listed our house and we haven't heard from this agent in 3 weeks. We don't know what's going on. We found out it's on multiple, but we can't find it anywhere else. Can you help us? We'd like to list our house with you. Typical story. I'm sure no agent on this call ever does that. All right, last minute for questions. Okay, tabs in the book would be obviously the pre-list package, the listing file, the listing checklist, the communication that you have on Fridays. You got a whole bunch of information here. Let your assistant figure it out. That's her or his job. I'm Monica Reynolds, Monica at Heller the Home Seller. If you have any questions, just email them to me. Happy to help. And remember, you have to have some accountability with your assistant. They have a call next week. Schedule a time right after that call where you talk to her or him and figure out what you're putting into place. A lot of material starting to ramp up, and at least get these things in a policy and procedures manual for you guys to work on. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.